I'd like to invite.
Mr. Davis was trying to get his hand up.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I never saw you. I'm so sorry. You guys are welcome to visit with these guys after the meeting. Ask them the questions that you'd like to ask them. If we didn't get to you, I do apologize. For time's sake, it's almost 8:30, and I just don't want to keep everybody here too late. Pastor Joel's been very, very gracious with us, so we want to make sure and honor his time sacrifice with his family. So I'd like to invite our state representative candidates to come up. Mr. Kevin Wallace is our incumbent. Mr. Shaw, is Mr. Schilling here? Come on up, Mr. Schilling. Please note that you are welcome to ask questions. I ask you to raise your hand. Wait until you are recognized, till Carol brings you the microphone, and then ask your questions. Please don't shout out. Please be respectful of everybody else's time and everybody else's questions. Yes, sir.
I got a question for you, Paula. Is there a Democratic candidate for this office?
There is none.
So June is gonna
June is
elect
it. Everybody
Same
gets
thing
elected
with the
in
sheriff's
June.
department, right?
That's correct. And the county commissioners.
So
I know.
all three offices,
Yes.
County commissioners in June as well.
And county clerk.
And the county clerk as well.
all four offices are gonna be elected June
They're all
18th.
Republicans.
Or have a runoff.
Unless there's a runoff.
Unless we have a runoff.
Unless you have a run.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So is everybody clear on that? June
18th.
18th is the date. We are going to be voting. We as a party decided a few years ago that we would not support one Republican over another. So you might notice that we have not given money to our candidates because we always wait till after the primary to support them. And that's just kind of how we've taken that stand as a party here in Lincoln County.
Paula,
So,
also
yes.
for the county commissioners, it's only for District 2. So
Exactly.
if you're in Precinct 10 or District 2, that's the only where you'll see for county commissioners. There's no other county commissioners running.
All right. Now, get your questions ready. We're going to let these guys have a couple of minutes to introduce themselves and share with us their vision for the office. And then I'm going to ask you guys to just keep it to a couple of minutes. I know you're statesmen, that's your job is to talk all the time. So, thank you. Here's Mr. Kevin Wallace. Okay.
Good evening. Welcome, everyone. My name is Kevin Wallace. I'm your state representative for House District 32. My wife Jenny and I have 4 adult children. 2 were raised in Chandler, 2 in Wellston. Got a couple out of college and careers, military background as well. Very proud of our kids. I have served 10 years in state legislature. I grew up and was raised in Wellston, graduated Wellston High School. I do continue to still live in the district as well. I went to UCO, get a bachelor's degree in business administration, and always been a small business owner since college. My first business was a trim company. I used to trim houses, build cabinets, started that back in 19 or 20 years old. SWT, or Southwest Trim was that one. I still have SWT Construction. But I was asked to run for office after being involved in a business that was over-regulated. I joined some associations here in Oklahoma and then on a national level as well. Made trips to the Capitol, worked with the Wildlife Department and Ag Department to come up with the Farm Survey Act. Through those relationships, I went to Washington, D.C., lobbied for a federal association as well, made contacts. I was asked to run for office multiple times before I did. In the tenure that I have served at the Capitol, I've done a lot of great things for the state, especially for the House District 32. Lower taxes, did away with the state portion of sales tax on groceries. Immigration has been talked about. We passed a new law to empower law enforcement to not profile, but if someone breaks the law and they cannot prove that they've come into this U.S. Legally, they can detain them. Strengthen that, protected girls' sports, pro-life 100%. I am a Christian as well, a man of faith, and I show up every day to represent the district and make sure that I leave in a better place than I found it. The other things I would talk about a little bit, I'm very proud that Lincoln County is becoming a public safety hub. Both the National Guard is going to build a joint operations center here in Chandler. DPS is also going to be building a training facility in southwest Lincoln County and moving their operations and all their training to central Oklahoma as well. So I guess the last thing I would say, Oklahoma does have term limits. You can only serve 12 years in the legislature. I have one more term to serve, and I would humbly ask for your support and vote on June 18th.
All right, thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jim Shaw. I am running for state representative out here in our district. My wife, Dan, and I have been married for 15 years. We live on the west side of town here in Chandler. We've got 2 young daughters, beautiful girls, 9 and almost 7 years old. My wife and I are both born and raised in Oklahoma. I'm a 5th generation Oklahoman. My wife grew up in Barnsdall, Oklahoma. Some of you have heard of that recently, unfortunately. There's a number of reasons or issues as to why I decided to run for this position. But first, the 3 core tenets to my platform. Number 1 is land. Number 2 is livelihoods, and number 3 is legacies. I believe we're all facing risks and challenges in each one of those categories, but if we start with land, the industrial wind and solar complexes that are being proposed in our district, yes, I call them complexes. It's not a wind farm, it's not a solar farm. Go down the road and talk to your local farmer or rancher, they will show you what a farm really is. This is not that. Number 2, in the land category, the humanure and biosolid, the sludge issue in our district and in the surrounding districts is becoming a serious problem. If you don't know what that is, if you've never heard of that, you've probably smelled it, okay? It's literal human waste being trucked from the cities, poured out on our farmlands as fertilizer. It's absolutely disgusting. I think both of those items are ultimately compromising our way of life and our livelihood out here, along with ever-increasing taxes, the oil and gas community being challenged and suffering from this green energy agenda, which is ultimately compromising our legacy that we're trying to leave for our children and grandchildren, okay? So let me leave you with this. If you've been okay or happy with the way things have been going the last 5, 10, 15 years, if you're okay with the policies that have been enacted, if you're okay with the overall behavior at the state capitol, I'm not your man. But if you're ready for a change, and I mean a significant change, if you're ready for true conservative leadership, servant-oriented leadership in the state capitol, serving you in your interests, not some big corporate special interest, then I'm your man for the job. June 18th, Jim Shaw, District 32, State Representative.
First, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. It was nice seeing a lot of you. I've seen you right there on your doorstep speaking with you. A lot of you have called me or contacted me. We've talked on the phone or through email. My name is Jason Shelley, running for House District 32. I live in Perkins. I've got 3 boys. 2 of them are here with me today. My youngest just graduated Friday, and of course we have a little not so mini Schnauzer Ruby. I was mayor of the year for 6 years. I was a Perkins mayor for 6 years. I was the 2020 mayor of the year, Oklahoma Municipal League mayor of the year. Whenever I decided I wanted to run for city council, I didn't do it for honors or awards or anything like that. I did it because I felt like I could contribute to my community and there was a better way of doing things. So I was city council for 1 year, mayor for 6 years, total of 7 years. When I got on there, of course, we found all kinds of issues. We found internal issues, we found financial issues, we found infrastructure issues. So I began to set things straight. We streamlined our government, we improved it, shrank it, we wrote conservative budgets, and we created a 5-year rolling capital improvements plan and started tackling things and improving our community as a whole. While I was there, I did not expect this coming, but we saw the Green New Deal come, we saw the defund the police come, we saw the mask mandates come, and I refused to participate. I absolutely fought back against it. I protected my police department, actually increased funding went to police department. I would not let them do a mask mandate on our community. We stayed open and we thrived. At one point, because of all the things that we've done, of course, even today, our community is just absolutely exploding. We've seen people move in, we've seen businesses come in. My favorite, small businesses have started. And at one point during this, our sales tax revenue was increasing 30-35% higher than what we were expecting. When we look at Oklahoma City today, capital, what do we see? We see internal issues, we see financial issues, we see the Green New Deal, we see a Lincoln Boulevard that should look less like Washington, D.C. and more like Main Street, Oklahoma. And that's why I'm running, and that's why I'm asking for your vote. Because I believe that together, we can take this experience, we can take this momentum, and with your vote together, you and I, we will go to that Capitol and we will begin to make a difference. Thank you.
You guys can stand up. We're going to take questions now. And if you would, please wait for Carol to come to you with the microphone. Please raise your hand if you have a question. We have one right here. Okay.
This question is for Mr. Wallace. The Code of Ethics of Oklahoma says that actions or omissions that place in jeopardy the health, life, and property or self of others. As I understand it, you use the biosolids, the human manure on your farms. Is that correct?
So to be clear, the biosolid sludge is regulated by the Department of Environment and Quality. I have used it twice. It has got setbacks, restrictions, and regulations. It's been legal to be used in this state now for, I think, 8 years. You use it twice a year. Therefore, I could have used it 16 times. I've used it twice. That's correct, ma'am.
Okay. My additional question is, have your neighbors complained? Are you aware that 2 of your close neighbors now have lupus? I have 3 autoimmune diseases that are all directly correlated to our aquifer. Your farm is to the southwest of mine. Spring, summer, fall. That's when all of my autoimmune diseases go crazy. And I understand that that's when most of this stuff is being done. I would expect someone in your position to have done a little further, regardless of what the state says, regardless of what the regulations say. If your neighbors or your community or anyone is questioning, would you not dig deeper into what the actual health effects are of that? Because they're coming out to be horrible.
Yes, I actually did the research. It was brought to me by a complaint by a former county commissioner, Troy Evans, who actually signed the permits for all the uses of biosludge in Lincoln County for his district at the time. So when it was brought to me, Troy was the one to shut it down. I said, well, let me do some research. Let me check into that for you. So I did the research that you're talking about. Found out it is regulated and highly regulated by DEQ. They have done the test and study. As long as it's pasteurized 2 times, there's no pathogens in it, and it is basically manure. Yes, I will tell you, one of my neighbors said, hey, I don't think you should use human manure. You should use only animal. And I did ask, have you ever smelt chicken manure?
Yes.
It lasts for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
So, yes, I have checked into that. And as we progress, and I'll just bring up a couple things that you bring up. Property owners, landowner rights, people being dedicated to serving the Oklahoma and the U.S. Constitution. The 5th Amendment states that you're entitled to the pursuit of life, liberty, and to own property. 14th Amendment says, no state shall basically infringe on those rights of life, liberty, or property. So it's interesting to me, and I told the story one time. A gentleman called me and said, hey, I want you to outlaw herbicides. And I'm like, okay, why is that? And he goes, well, my neighbor is spraying his pasture to kill these weeds, and my bees are going over and getting contaminated and come back and affecting the entire hive. So when you look at property rights, that very individual in here, if you own property, you better be paying attention. A lot of talk went on today about putting moratoriums on, or if you end up with county ordinances, what that really means. But I talked to the gentleman a little bit longer. I said, so your neighbor, a rancher farmer trying to make a living on his property, doing nothing illegal, Your bees are over trespassing, they're coming back and contaminating the hive, and you want me to outlaw something that this gentleman's doing for his way of life and living. If you're not careful with the county ordinances, you'll end up having to apply for a permit to say, hey, I want to build something.
Can I
Have an
do
inspection.
that?
Then one other thing, and this has come up before, and you've asked your questions many times at the legislative breakfasts. So, if you go down the county ordinances to zoning, right, and someone says, hey, that's a nuisance, it kept me up. When I go to wean my cattle and pin them up for a couple weeks and they bawl and whine, is that going to be a nuisance that I'm going to be fined for? Just saying, property rights is what I'm for.
I understand that, and you keep going on property rights. My question is, why do you have the right to do something that affects a large community, a very large community, very large? That is not a personal property issue, sir. I have the rights to my health.
I live out in the country on 160 acres. I'm not breaking the law on my property. I'm defending everybody else's liberties and rights.
You're breaking ethics because you're not listening to your neighbors who say no. Don't do
One
that.
other thing, to be clear, and I've stated I've used it twice. I have listened to them, I've quit using it, but I also have expressed the cost of fertilizer and running a farm, feeding all of the U.S. and other countries. It's not just a simple show up and hey, make money at it.
We have other questions, and we also have other candidates who would like to field questions, so.
I would like to ask a question about House Bill 2305 and Senate Bill 1073, I believe. House Bill 2305, Kevin Wallace, you did not vote on. However, this is a bill that exempts the cities and the companies that dump sludge, as well as the farmers that use it, from contamination of the aquifer of their neighbors' farms or of the farmers who used it, who were told it was safe, like you were told it was safe. As a farmer who used sludge, do you believe that this bill should be passed, where if a farmer is later deemed contaminated by the EPA and the new rule that states they can only have 4 parts per trillion of water PFAS contamination, and their land is contaminated and they were not told of the risk by the DEQ, they cannot sue Synagro and they can't sue the city that did not tell them of those risks. You cannot sue the city. The deer in Maine are now contaminated with PFAS and they're recommending not hunting, sir. This isn't just for you. This
Can you
is for
tell me
everyone.
the House bill number again? Because I just looked up 2705.
Maybe someone else would like to address this?
The makers
Yes.
of Lion Sludge is wrong. I don't know what happened to the result of that bill, but they should not be given exemptions.
It's passing currently with
It's
Lion.
currently passing, I would vote against it.
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, at any point in time, if you are moving forward with suggesting that a certain group of people or organization or what have you is completely exempt from any kind of legal recourse for what they're doing, everybody needs to take a minute and take a big, long, hard look at what they're talking about.
Looking at the votes in the House on the floor, that bill actually passed the House 93-2.
Exactly.
Yes.
That doesn't make
So-
it right.
And
I will say this, let me read the summary of the bill because I don't believe what's being stated is correct either.
Okay, well, I would like to address a previous questions because, first of all, I'm going to preface I'm not an attorney, but you can't yell fire in a crowded room. Your property rights and your free will, your ability to enjoy your property rights go up to an extent where you're infringing upon other people's ability to freely enjoy their property rights. That's how that works. If you have a stream that comes through a neighbor's property and your property, they can't dam it and you no longer get water. It doesn't work that way. I've talked to people, I've been outdoor knocking. I talked to this one nice couple, they said that biosludge is put on property right across from them, literally across the street, and they say that when that happens, they basically can't even stay in their house. It smells so bad, they get infested with flies and so forth. And it's just, it's terrible, and that's how that works, so.
You want to go ahead and respond? Go right ahead. All right, go right ahead.
No, I mean, if we talk about property rights a little bit further, I mean, I agree with what Jason said. It also applies to wind turbines, okay? There's current setbacks put in place for airstrips, which is pretty obvious, but also schools and hospitals. Why is it that those things can't be within 1.5 miles of those structures? There's obvious safety risks. So if you have a wind turbine on your property, it's not just impacting the four corners of your property. It extends well beyond that. There's obvious statutes already in place that indicate that it does. So with property rights comes a huge amount of responsibility as well. I am all for personal property rights. This is what we're talking about. And the large majority of the people that I have talked to, hundreds upon hundreds, almost into the thousands, and will be soon here into the thousands, I have not met one person that says they absolutely want the wind turbines, okay? And that is a property rights issue for the majority of the people, not for the few that chose to sign a lease and potentially reap some financial reward, which is overpromised and always underdelivered.
So the bill summary for House Bill 2305 creates the Oklahoma PFAS Act, which authorizes the Department of Environmental Quality to regulate the disposal of a couple pretty long scientific words, but goes back into the PFAS. Through the review of applications for receiving, storing, treating, and disposing of the waste. The measure provides liability protection for treatment cost. So for the treatment cost, liability protection. In the case of a released to 8 categories of positive receivers. Also within DEQ, there's a federal, as we talk about the federal overreach, the environmental quality is trying to pass that 4 parts per million in things. The federal did. We also funded, let me tell you this, for the federal putback. DEQ says that that is a poison pill that even our city waters, municipal waters, your well water probably will not pass that currently. DEQ is why we're giving them the ability to regulate and push back against federal overreach. Also, in the last 3 years, we put $10 million a year in the AG's budget for the same purpose of the federal overreach. So I heard some talking here and questions about, hey, what are you going to do to protect the federal overreach? This is what we're doing. We are making sure that the Department of DEQ is in control of it in the state of Oklahoma, because they are our state agency, not the EPA, which is the federal agency that's trying to set up failure for your water quality everywhere.
The rest of that bill exempted farmers, the applicator, and the city from liability.
And I'll tell you right now, the bill is actually in conference. That means the bill will not pass in its current form. So it's not passing with flying colors, it's in conference.
What about your bill that gives hydrogen companies $10 million of exemption in income tax?
You do not have the microphone. You have not been recognized. If you don't quit, we will ask you to leave.
That's fine.
We have some other questions, but before we do, I have a question for all 3 of you. And I have a statement. I have talked to some farmers in western Oklahoma and told them about your initiative and how you guys have been educating the population about wind turbines. And it's been very eye-opening to me. I will say that Kim Douglas came and gave a great speech and gave a lot of good facts. But the farmers in western Oklahoma that I talked to said, tell them not to come here, we don't want that. We want our wind turbines. So don't shoot the messenger. That's what I was told. Also, have any of you ever been to Disney World in Florida? Anybody? Disney World in Florida? I want you to know that you have all been partakers of recycled water and recycled waste, because Disney World has fought very hard to get the right to use their recycled waste and their recycled water, and have done numerous environmental studies to prove that it was not harmful to the state of Florida. So I have that on good authority from a lawyer who litigated that. So that's just a plain devil's advocate here.
So there's forever chemicals at Disney World.
There are people
It's
in this
unsafe to go there.
district
And what?
who do want wind turbines and who do want to use biosludge, who do not feel like it is, that they feel like it hasn't been, the facts are not actual facts. It's data, yes, it's a lot of data out there, but just because the data might, the science isn't settled, in other words. So, how are you going to represent all of the people in District 32, the ones who want it and the ones who do not want stuff like, and this isn't going to be the last time you deal with it because it's an ongoing thing. I've even heard that one of the big pushes behind getting rid of biosludge is because abortion pills have been dissolved in municipal water systems, and it's a forever chemical that can't go away. And so they want to stop the biosludge to actually stop the abortion pills to stop abortion, which, hey, I've been pro-life all my life. I have 6 beautiful children, 8 grandchildren, so I'm 100% pro-life. However, I don't know that that is accurate. I would have to see more facts on that to see if that's actually accurate. So my question for you is, how are you going to represent everybody, not just the ones who agree with you or agree with your position on this issue this time, and next year it's going to be something else?
I think so.
Industries and businesses are regulated throughout the state and on a federal level as well. So one thing I will tell you, it is very important. I have had people email and call my office that they want wind turbines here in Lincoln County. That is the beauty of the fact each landowner gets to choose. We do live in a democracy where you have rights in the Constitution. So a couple things I will say. Back in 2017, we did pass setback ordinances for hospitals, schools, and runways, 1.5 nautical miles. We also, in the state, ended the tax credit. Federally, yes, wind turbines are still getting subsidies from the federal government. I don't agree with that. We ended it. I was there when we did that. But to listen to every constituent, and I gave the reference, somebody's living in justification just because your neighbor doesn't like what you do for a business. If it's legal, it is legal. The fact that you have the right to say yes or no if you want to sign a lease. That's what I'm there to protect every day. It's been said that you either got to be for or against it. I am for your individual property and landowner rights, for you to have the choice. Because whenever we start passing laws that takes away your rights and your choices, and I've said this before, a government big enough to provide everything is big enough to take everything away. So it's a fine balance, but the Constitution was very clear, and I stated the 5th and the 14th will go.
So, obviously, from what I said earlier, I disagree with a certain amount of that. I am absolutely for your property rights as well. To your question, I absolutely would be representing the entire District 32. There's no question about that. But at the end of the day, what does the majority of District 32 want? What does the majority of District 32 believe in, and what are their interests? Okay. So, are we going to support and endorse a very small minority of opinion and interest that is going to then impact in a huge negative and consequential way to the rest of the majority of the people here? Then that's not what I'm supportive of. So that's absolutely not what I'm supportive of.
Absolutely, I'll be representing everyone as best as I can. And if you want a full representation, the best way to do it is through free markets. Take away the exemptions, take away the, I don't care if it's federal tax credits. We can stop them from getting federal tax credits. Let the free market decide. Don't let them be exempt from the damages that they cause to the property and the land and the environment. And then let's see, no contracts that take advantage of the elderly and the poor. And we'll see if the free market actually really wants those. And I guarantee you they're not viable that way on the free market, and the people won't take them.
Question from this lady?
Yes. Hi, I work at the county clerk's clerk's office. I am actually a transplant to Oklahoma, but I got to go to the Capitol a couple of months ago with our fantastic current county clerk. She took me for training, and I thought that was fantastic. We got to lobby a little bit for some of the Senate bills that directly affects county government, and particularly my office, which is land records. If there were to be more Senate bills that come through across your desk to look at, how would you handle that as far as the county government level for educating yourselves on what those bills do and how they affect our office, which then affects Lincoln County?
Yeah, I like that question. While I was mayor, one of the things I did is I worked with the Oklahoma Municipal League, and I went to the Congress of Mayors every year, and we talked with all the other mayors and representatives that was there from the cities and the townships, and we would put resolutions together and so forth that we would then give to the legislator of how they could, changes they could make to help us govern better. Same principle applies there. You got to get to the source and talk to the people who know, talk to the court clerks and so forth, and figure out what we can do. There's always ways of streamlining it, especially with government, streamlining things and making it run better. So it would be definitely a give and take an education process, and just like before, talking with all of them and finding out how we can move it forward.
Yeah, I don't disagree there. It's very similar. I had some conversations with some teachers here in the district recently, and they just want somebody to come and spend some time with them and understand what their challenges are, what their desires are, to better lean into teaching our next generation. So it'd be the same thing. I would love to come and speak directly to you all, figure out exactly what your needs are, what you're pushing for, and why, and then let's collaborate on the best solution going forward.
Advocacy is always the best way. My door is always open for any constituents that come to the Capitol. I always meet with them. I'm very active with the ACO, which is also the association that you're a member of. They come to the table all the time requesting things. I didn't hit on it, but I listen. Since I've been in office, we raised the cap on the CERB funds, which will deal with the county commissioner of roads, allowing them to use 33% of that fund annually, and then we're increasing it as well. Same thing as a request that come out of ACO was to remove the cap that was placed on the funds back in 2017. Myself and Chuck Hall ran that, Senator Hall. That bill currently is passed, but the title was struck. It's in conference, but during the budget negotiations, we have agreed to reset that cap. It's going to be an increase of about $8.7 million into the counties.
I have a question for you guys. You guys have all been out campaigning throughout the county. Kevin, you've lived here most, I guess, all your life. If they were going to build the wind farms, where would it be? Do you guys have any idea? I mean, you guys, is it west of 177? That's where there's about 8 landowners that have, what, 12,000 acres? I mean...
So there are 2 wind site projects that I'm aware of. There's one called Cedar Run. It is north of Stroud. I've asked for a map. They are not willing to give me a map at this time. They said they were filing with the Corporation Commission. Once they have that filing in, which they're regulated under the Corporation Commission, they will release the map. The only thing they told me was they had 50 landowners, 15,000 acres, and all the leases were signed. The one that's brought a lot of attention here lately is a project called Sandstone with Apex is going out and trying to acquire the leases right now. It is an area starting right 1 mile from Kearney. It's kind of the mid-north central part of the county that runs over and has a little bit of a dogtail or hook on it that they're participating, trying to get leases in. So when you ask about a large landowner by 177,
West 177, you've got, maybe 7, 8 families that have 12, 15,000 acres out there. Would that not be they all connect up to each other? Would that
I'm
not be?
not aware of a project going on there.
Okay.
I'm not involved in green energy lease. I just represent the district, try to find out what I can gather information and be a resource and pass that back out. I've had many conversations about if I was a landowner in that map area, how I'd organize to fight against it. I've given great advice, not everybody always listens.
Well, it was up to me, they'd go nowhere. I mean, they could have them in some other state if they want them, or some other nation, but we wouldn't have them here. Again, I'll refer back to the comment on the free market system I made earlier. They don't survive in the free market, and we don't want them. And I'm telling you right now, we just don't want them in general. It's going to be a huge disaster, short-term and long-term. We're all old enough to remember. I was a kid at the time. We all remember the oil boom and bust of the 80s, right? And then we had abandoned oil wells all over the place. And of course, when I was a kid, we would be given education. Don't play on them if people were falling in the leftover holes and all this stuff. The way things are, they're getting government money to be built, and I'm telling you, once they're built and they're done, and the foreign companies that are here building them have their money and they take off, they won't be maintained properly. They'll be a big mess. They'll start breaking down. They'll spill oil everywhere. They'll become huge hazards. And who will be the ones left to clean it up? I mean, you won't be able to go to the Italian company that built them. They're back home. It'll be us taxpayers doing it. So you're going to create a mess in the short term and the long term, and we just need to stop it to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I think, Mr. Wallace indicated where the current project boundaries are, so I also am not aware of anything west of 177 at the moment, so. Next question.
I'm actually got a couple quick questions for you. One for Wallace. So I had a question for you. So according to the voting record in 2023, you missed 367 votes. The few times you did vote, you voted yes for everything. So your vote is rubber stamped is what it is. For basically less than 3% of the time, you voted no. And so the majority of the time in 2023, you didn't even show up. So you showed up for maybe less than 2/3 of the time. So I was wondering, what exactly did you have better to do than represent us in Oklahoma City? So the other question I have is basically for everyone here about the wind turbines. So we all know the wind turbines are a big priority for World Economic Forum, basically for the Biden administration, for George Soros. I mean, all the bad actors in the world want wind turbines. They also want all the green energy stuff. And we all know how this works. So to count this as a land rights thing is a fundamental misrepresentation of what it is. What it is the government giving money out to a few select people, and then a few select people benefit from this, and the rest of us pay the bill. Okay, so wind turbines are Obamacare 2.0. That's what it is. And so when you try to say that it's land rights, that's the exact same argument that Barack Obama made in favor of seizing control of healthcare. It's not land rights, it's government tax money going to companies like what's called, or Nextera. They give money to Nextera, and then Nextera comes to Oklahoma and they want to know who's for sale. Who can they buy off? Okay, so you have received $16,000 from them. So this is Biden bucks is what they are. This money from the federal government going to Nextera. So I don't think there's probably any Republican in the whole state that has more Biden bucks in their wallet than you. So what's in your wallet? Well, we know what's in your wallet. $16,000 of Nextera money.
There's a lot there. I'm going to answer your half dozen questions. But let's start with.
And this is going to be it. It's 9 o'clock. So after this, wrap it up.
Wow.
So on my voting record, I've been involved in appropriations and budget. Now this is my 7th year as chair. One constitutional duty that we have to do at the state capitol every year, pass a balanced budget. I am in numerous meetings, multiple meetings. I left a meeting today, straight out of a meeting in the governor's conference office on budget to come here. Also, the thing that you need to understand about the process, and you don't, and that's fine, as chair of the A&B committee, there are 9 subcommittees underneath me. Numerous bills get filed every year. For instance, 23 is the year I think you're talking about. 4,000 bills were filed. 4,000 bills were filed. You talk about my notebooks, and this is where I'm fixing to educate you. So any bill that has to deal with an appropriation or budget or impact of the state gets sent to A&B. There are 9 subcommittees under A&B. I send all those bills to the subcommittees, whether it's transportation, public health, public safety, you name it. So let's say I send a bill transportation. If they pass that bill, I'm the backstop to keep all bad bills that I can to come through the appropriation process off the floor. So the point that you don't understand is I didn't have to cast a no vote. I killed thousands of bills by being very firm and strong in my opinion and my morals and stance, and I don't hear a bill if I wouldn't vote for it out of committee, period. Same thing with the subcommittee chair. So they're killing bills that you never see, never hear about, and there's not a vote casted on the House floor. One other thing I want to mention, and we're going to change this in the House rules the next session, won't impact me one bit. I have been in meetings for hours where Speaker Charles would call. If he's in the building, his vote gets to count. They vote for him all the time. I've told them, listen, you have to change that for your appropriations chair. I'm in the building every day. I'm in meetings every day. And if a constituent comes up, I always go meet with my constituents no matter what. So there's that. You want to talk about money, I tell you. I have taken money from oil and gas, from wind, from pharmaceuticals, from your abstract associations, your county municipal government associations, municipal league, this gentleman just mentioned. I take money from them. That doesn't mean I'm bought. I've been in office 10 years. Their limit for a PAC is $5,000 a year. I could have taken $50,000 from any one of them. But you said I've taken 16. Well, they didn't support me very well as far as what they could have. And then what do I do with that money? I come back. I invest and donate to the FFA, to the Little League ball team. I support the community and the district I served in daily. And one other thing you need to know when you're in leadership, any Republican House member that has a race, I end up writing them a check to make sure we get them reelected and back into the legislature. So you asked a lot, and I think you asked something else on the very end. What was that?
Oh, it's just about, well, the wind turbines.
Wind turbines. Yes, okay, the Biden bus. Yes, this is the other thing I wanted to point out. You mentioned this is the same as Obamacare 2.0. Did you know the citizens of the state of Oklahoma voted on the ballot to adopt Obamacare 2.0? Medicaid expansion. Yes, you did. Yes, the public voted for that, and yes, we have it in the state of Oklahoma. It just went live with managed care April 1st.
Well, a couple things on this. First of all, the Medicare expansion, I was against that because I knew that was Obamacare coming in. Next thing I want to say is that, as you can see, my campaign materials on my website that's going out, I've taken a pledge that I'm not going to take any lobbyist money. The only people I report to is God and the constituents, nobody else. The second thing, the last thing I'll leave you with, other than I asked for your vote on June 18th, is that as mayor, I learned that it is always best to have conversations with your constituents versus lectures. So.
So on those few subjects, absolutely, I can't get behind an industry or something where it is completely taxpayer funded and they wouldn't survive without our money. Okay, that absolutely makes no sense to me. Why we should be supporting something like that. And very similarly, I am not for sale. My morals and my beliefs have no price tag on them. I don't need the money. That's not what I'm in this for. I'm in this to serve my community and my district to the best of my ability. Thank you all very much.
I want to thank you all so much for attending tonight. Please feel free to call your elected officials, call these guys. They have their phone numbers on their campaign material, but it is after 9 o'clock, and Pastor Joel has other family responsibilities he needs to do. So I want to thank you all for coming. And remember, we are the Lincoln County Republican Party. We meet every month. We could sure use your help. There's only a few of us.
I've got 3 volunteers.
3 volunteers. Thank you. Thank you.